Hey there, berries, welcome to another Final Fantasy 14 Dawntrail guide. In this one we're going to be talking about 7.05 and how you can prepare for that, which is going to be the Savage release on the 30th of July. And we're going to be talking about how, whether or not if you're a crafter or a gatherer or not, how you can prepare for this. And obviously we're going to be talking about crafting and gathering, I think, for a lot of this video, but at the very start here we're going to be talking about battle and how you can prepare for that. So the first thing that you're going to be wanting to do is from July the 16th, which is a Tuesday, you're going to want to make sure that you do that normal raid every single week for gear. Now, in terms of gear, you might want to be running the same boss over and over again in order to get optimized drops. If you're not sure what gear that you're going to be wanting for that, I would advise you to check out the Balance Discord, which I'll put a link down below somewhere, which will have a link for their Discord where you can go to where your job is and find out what gear pieces you are wanting. It might take a little while for the Balance Discord in order to have complete optimized drop rates or drops for what your job will want. So you might want to wait until the evening of that day or maybe the next day in order before you're running it and claiming drops, because you will only get one loot item per boss per week, I believe. So do be careful and make sure that you're getting the things that are optimized for your job. You're also going to want to be making sure that you get your item level 710 weapon from the first extreme. That's going to be really important, so make sure you have that. Obviously getting accessories from extreme 2 is also pretty important, so if you're able to do that too, then make sure you do that. I mean, if you're looking to do Savage, you should have already looked at doing that, to be honest, and have most if not all of your accessories at 710 also. Now, apart from raiding, preparing for 7.05, you're going to be wanting to do hunt trains. Now, hunt trains are primarily for the combat materia. So from doing the hunts themselves, you will get these clusters and these prismatic lusters. So if you are wanting to do day one, the first week prog in Savage, you are going to want to have cracked Nova clusters and cracked prismatic lusters. You can hand those into a materia vendor. There's actually one up the elevator in Solution 9, if I can remember exactly where that is. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. This elevator shaft here at the back here at 712, you can take this up here. And there's a materia vendor here where you can exchange all of your clusters for XI and XII, so that's 11 and 12 materia. Now, if you're new to materia melding, particularly if you've never dove into crafting or melding, or if this is like your first Savage, the easiest way I can explain this is, for example, you know those slots that you have on gear, those materia slots, those green circles. In crafted gear, you can go beyond those green circles up to 5, and that's called pentamelding. The only problem is, though, with crafted gear, when you are going past those 2 slots, so those 2 slots on that gear are guaranteed 100% chances. When you go beyond that, materia has a chance of breaking, and as you can imagine, the more materia you add into the gear, the higher chance it has of breaking. So you're going to want a lot of materia if you are going full crafted gear, for example, in order to get full pentameld, and it can get really expensive pretty quickly, especially if you're buying the materia from the market boards. That's why it's important to have those clusters to make sure that you don't have to spend an absolute fortune on the market board. One thing I also will explain in terms of how materia works if you're new to it. So those 2 slots are guaranteed. The XII, the 12 materia, can go beyond 1 slot as well. So you're still going to want a good amount of those Nova clusters, I think they're called. Yeah, these Nova clusters, they exchange for the 12 materia. So for example, on this chest piece, you could do XII on the 2 guaranteed slots, and then you want to try and get another XII materia on that 3rd slot, which will probably have a reasonable chance of breaking. I think it's like 20% chance of succeeding. and then you'll be using XI for the last 2 slots, and there will be like a 7% chance and then a 5% chance. It gets like really low, especially for those last ones. So overall, you're probably going to want more of the prismatic clusters or XI materia when you're doing this. So make sure that you are stocking up your spirit bonding, extracting materia from your gear whenever you can. So like, let's see if I haven't got any materia on me, but when your spirit bond on your gear gets up to 100%, make sure you're extracting that from your battle gear to get that battle materia, and hopefully you'll get crit and determination or direct hit or whatever your job is wanting in order to min-max that. So the reason why crafted gear is generally better, even though it's going to be the same item level at the start, is just because you can pentameld, and the amount of extra secondary stats you can have on those items at that point, you'll be talking about an extra around about 100 to 120-ish per item. So, you know, having an extra, essentially 5,000 substat extra on across your whole gear, so potentially a mix of like an extra 600 crit and 500 determination or direct hit or something, like that adds up to a massive amount when you're doing prog. So make sure that you are doing that if you are able to. Crafted gear is going to be pretty expensive on the auction house as well, on the market board. So if you are looking to do that day 1 prog especially, expect to be paying a couple of million per item. Crafted gear will be extremely expensive as well. Other things that you can do, what everyone really should be doing, is bicolor gemstone cap. So what I mean by that is the bicolors that you get from doing fates. You want to basically be near or at cap on the bicolor gemstones, because there will be a lot of crafted material from handing in those bicolor gemstones. So that's the hides, the food, cloth, all of that good stuff will be converted from the bicolor gemstones. You can also prep up for that too by setting your retainers. If you have retainers, like combat retainer can get those bicolor gemstone ones as well. If your retainer is level 100, it can get like the lower zones at a higher quantity. Like I think at the moment my 100 combat retainer is able to get 12 of like the tumbleweed stuff, which is used in potions at the moment. So the lower ones you might want to use your retainers for, and then the ones that are higher level, so the ones that are from like living memory and also from Heritage Foundation from the outskirts, it might be better to spend bicolor gemstones on those pieces and get your retainer to get the other ones, because they are the same price, but your retainer can basically get more per gemstone value, if that makes sense. Next, also another thing that you're going to be wanting to do is cap out on the tones of aesthetics. The main reasoning behind this is because there will be crafted materials that you can get from the tombstones, and even if you are just doing battle, you can sell these on the market board for money to then exchange that money for gear, obviously. Or you can give that to your crafted friends in your savage group who are making the gear to make their life a lot easier. Otherwise, they're going to have to spend an absolute fortune on the market board to make the gear for you. Or they're going to have to waste time and doing a couple of dungeon runs experts and stuff like that in order to get some more aesthetics to be able to make the gear for you. So please make sure that you cap out on aesthetics, especially if you're relying on other crafters in your group to make that gear for you. So cap out on the tomes, cap out on the bicolor gemstones. But also, actually, briefly, when we're talking about fates and clusters, I probably should have mentioned it there. You're going to get sacks of nuts as well. Try and potentially, I mean, when you're doing the clusters from the fates, you're going to be getting a lot of nuts anyway. Do look at trying to get holding as many as you can, because you can buy battle material from that too. So once before 7.05 hits, I'm going to be capping out my nuts. I just have 0 because I bought the mount and the kitty cat. So I'm going to have to do some more hunt trains. I would have to do more hunt trains anyway, because I don't think this is going to be enough. 39 to 67, not even close. You're probably looking at around about, I reckon, 100 Nova clusters, ideally, if you're going for full crafted. and then probably more like 400, 500 prismatic clusters in order to, you know, if you have no battle materia in your bank at the moment from doing spirit bonding, then you're probably looking at quite a lot there for a full amount of penta melded gear, if that's what you are after. Realistically though, most people are probably only going to be going for about half crafted, especially for best in slots and things like that. So I'd say try and have at least 100 minimum, ideally 200 to 300 on the prismatic clusters, the XI ones. Moving on now from battle into gathering, you are looking at, for gathering, lots of ether sands required. You've already got the sun gilt ether sand that is currently used in some of these recipes at the moment. I fully expect this to also be used in recipes coming into that patch. You've got ether sand here that is not used for anything at the moment. Fully expect the ether sand to be used in the future recipes. I believe there are 4 different types of ether sand at the moment. Make sure that you're collecting them all. If people want help on that, I can more than happy to make a video on how to obtain the ether sand. You can get this from both fishing and from the timed nodes with mining and botany. Moving on from ether sands, you are obviously going to need to make sure that you are getting all of your materia from the gathering, at least on the gathering topic. Make sure you're using those potions, the spirit bomb potions. Make sure you're extracting materia from your gear still. You're going to need a lot of materia. You're going to be having a new full kit of gathering gear, so make sure that you have materia prepped up for that, and make sure that you have at least a good set of, you know, melds going on in your gear. I've used the Teamcraft melding gathering guide in order to optimize on there. The only things I kind of need to do, which I've been slacking on, is my weapons on both mining and botany. For Fisher, for example, it isn't really covered that much, but actually perception is probably the most important stat. If you do go into that through the collections or the spearfishing, because of big game fishing, increases the chance of getting an extra large fish, which will max out on that collectability, and that is based on perception rating. So I actually would highly recommend getting as much perception as possible into your fishing rod. I know previously there was maybe a bit more emphasis on gathering, but perception, in my opinion, is the most important for fishing. And then you've got your gathering food buffs as well. You have stuffed peppers. I've already got a few of those. You know, I honestly wouldn't say you would need a massive amount of the food buffs for gathering. You can also go for the gathering food as well, which would be, if I can remember correctly, let's see, GP, I just saw it, there we go, the Nazi Goreng for gathering and mainly for GP. There could be some nodes if you're struggling maybe to get over 1000 GP for some collectible rotations. You could go into the Nazi, but generally I feel like if you've already got pentamelded stuff, you should be okay. If you are struggling on a couple of procs, I don't think it's overall the end of the world, as long as you're meeting perception minimum requirements in order to see the gathering nodes. You're going to be using the stuffed peppers most likely anyway, since it gives an absolute huge amount of perception. You could also potentially use this in fishing, but I feel like if you've already got, you know, perception melded into your rod, you could probably get away with not using any stuffed peppers in the fishing itself. Going into crafting now, because that's going to be the main emphasis of the Savage. That's where it's all going to be. Going back into capping into things, we have crafters and purple and orange scripts. It is most likely that the master books that you are going to need to even be able to craft the new gear coming out will probably be from purples. Most likely it will be from purples. Make sure that you are capped on those. I would even recommend maybe having a retainer full of some purple handeds. So I kind of covered this a little bit in one of my previous videos, but just stack up. I mean, I've still got loads of backlavas. I've still got discontinued white crafter scripts. so I can hand those in really quickly to get a good exchange rate back onto purple, so I don't really need to stack any more than what I already have. We don't quite know how expensive these master books are going to be. It shouldn't be too bad, but you're going to need one for each one of the jobs, obviously, in order to be able to craft those recipes. So make sure you do have a huge amount of purples ready, just in case, because you don't want to be spending the first 2 hours of the patch just getting purple scripts just so that you can even do the recipes. That would be a complete disaster. Same thing with the orange crafters. Being capped out on that again, 4,000. There is likely, there's a small chance they might make it so orange is master books as well, so you want to be prepared for that. But the other reason is that there's probably going to be cooking ingredients that you're going to be able to buy with the orange crafter scripts. You will probably want to have, again, some retainer, at least one slot, I would say, looking like one page on a retainer just filled with orange crafter script hand-ins, just so that you don't have to go buy it from the market board, spend an absolute fortune, and just have it ready on hand if in case you do need those ingredients at hand. So do make sure you prepare extra beyond the cap of 4,000, so you don't have to mess around with stuff like that. Moving on to more preparation for crafters, we are looking at high quality ingredients. So for example, you're going to want to have a lot of the 95 plus high quality ingredients ready. So for example, from tailoring, you've got the Thunderyard silk. Probably going to be wanting to do the same with the Ronique, which is from the bicolor ones. I would say honestly just have from the bicolor ones, you probably want a stack of like 20-30 at least minimum high quality, so you don't have to mess around with that. The Thunderyard silk, probably more like 60-70. Whetstones, you're going to want those high quality. Black stars, I mean, you can go through the entire list, like the acacia lumber, the claret walnut lumber, you've got gold nuggets, you've got what else have we got? Where's the ingots? The rag has ingots as well too. Those are all the kind of things that you're looking up. Actually reminds me, fire crystals have gone up massively in price. Do that in armory. Ice crystals are generally a lot cheaper, so yeah, you want to do that. You could also do like quick synthesis as well, and just sell the normal quality ones at the moment, and keep the high qualities ones for yourself. And also that'd be a good spirit bonding rate too. That is something that you could potentially look into, especially for these Razkaz ingots, because the ice crystals are generally pretty cheap. Goldsmithing, white gold ingots, you get the gist of it, like black stars. There will be other materials as well. You'll probably find out something in Endwalker, like random levers or things like that may end up getting used in the recipes, particularly for cooking. Like for example, we had to go back and get like alien onions for the stuffed peppers and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be a whole range of materials that you're not necessarily going to be able to prepare for, but I would say anything that is 96 to 100, that is a sub item, like reagent. So like the levers, just have a bunch of them high quality, because when you're making those master recipes, obviously when you've got high quality ingredients, the quality is going to be pushed up, and it means it's going to be easier to actually craft the item itself. So make sure that you are doing that. When you are crafting, obviously you're going to want to have the crafting material backlog, so you're going to want to make sure you have a good amount of the craftsmanship, the why am I faltering here? Control, craftsmanship, control, and CP, in order to make sure you do those melds. I personally haven't pentameld fully to the full extent. I know there's a lot of people that have done. I actually haven't quite bothered. I did the 2 primaries and then I did some X's afterwards. Very kind of cheap kind of way to do it. Honestly, I really didn't bother going too crazy. I will probably make up the difference in food buff. I will also, if I have to, I will take out the the last 2 slots if I have to, and pentameld properly if needed. My main goal, honestly, at the start of the expansion is just to try and get this crafted gear, particularly on the left hand side, done as quickly as possible. just to make sure that those other master recipes are a lot easier and more comfortable to do. If you are going to pentameld before Savage Patch comes out, you probably would want to focus on accessories the most, because accessories, as you saw, maybe if you did the Indicator's gear, the accessories were pretty useful for a really long time. And you know, when you're making a left-hand piece, the base stats are usually like significantly better, whereas a jewelry doesn't really get a massive amount better. So the melds actually in the accessories end up being like pretty decent for quite a long time. So if you are going to pentameld anything, I would say personally I would recommend to do accessories more. Going into other buffs, so we've already briefly talked about like the food buffs, for example. You've also got from alchemy the tisanes. These are already going for quite a lot. Like here, for example, if you're going for the CP one and stacking up on that, which is probably going to be the, you know, unless you're struggling on getting those thresholds of like, you know, some of the master recipes will have requirements, like at the bottom here, craftsman recommended requirements. So that one's for control, that one's for CP. I feel like maybe not have. Yeah, there we go, craftsman CP. So you might want, if you haven't got pentamelded, or if the requirements are randomly extremely high, you might want to have craftsmanship tisanes on hand, so you can just chuck that to allow you in order to do the recipe in the first place. Otherwise, you're probably more looking at the cunning craftsmen for the first bunch of manual crafts. So you might want to stock up on maybe about 20 cunnings. These aren't cheap either to necessarily make. I mean, the materials aren't that bad, but buying them from the market board are kind of expensive. Like for example, the water crystals have gone up in price a lot recently. The tumble claw weeds are a bicolor reagent, bicolor gem thing from Fates, and the peppermints are a timed node, which are going for quite a lot at the moment. So not cheap, but make sure you do try and have like about 20 of those or so, just to make sure that you're ready, because the prices of all of these will go up. So if you need them at the last minute and you have to buy them, then once again you're going to be setting yourself back quite a lot of money. Then going into making sure that you have your clusters, that's absolutely vital. Clusters, for example here I'm running a little bit low on water, so I need to make sure I pump up on that. Water and fire are probably going to be the most important ones, because you're going to be mainly looking to do savage crafted food. So water and fire clusters will probably end up used a fair amount. So just make sure you do a double check here now, and kind of work out what clusters and things like that you will need. When you are gathering, if you are gathering the ether sand, you are going to be getting a reasonable amount of clusters. I believe from Dawntrail there is a fire cluster one, there's an ice cluster one, there's a wind cluster one, and there's a water cluster one, I believe, from spearfishing. I don't think in Dawntrail, no, we do have a lightning one as well. Do we have an earth cluster one? I can't quite remember, but there are most of these clusters, if not all, in Dawntrail. So do check out the ether sand ones, and when you desynthesize them, do double check in terms of what you are getting and making sure that you are fitting there, because you don't want to buy these. You don't want to buy these. These will be way too overpriced, especially on Savage Day. I know crystal prices right now are absolutely bonkers. They've gone up a lot over the last few days, and it's just going to get worse. So make sure that you are fully prepared on all of your crystals. One thing I kind of forgot to touch upon actually in terms of the gathering, which is actually really important. So my bad from like kind of overlooking that just briefly, is you want to have all of these new kind of like nodes that are available to gather now. The Nope Flower, the Fine Silver Ore, the Harmonite Ore, the Epilogue, the Black Seed Cotton Balls, and the Triale Alumine. I would recommend when you're gathering those nodes at the moment, make sure you got Spirit Bond up and you're kind of just hitting them normally, and then get down to 1 integrity, and then you're using either the Old Man Ageless Words into Wise to the World proc, or you're using Solid Reason into Wise to the World, just because it gives you more hits on the node to build up that spirit bond. I think maybe as we get maybe a little bit closer towards the time, then start using, you know, King's Yield and you know, Naldthal's Tidings in order to increase the amount of materials that you're getting from the nodes. But I think at the moment, since we still have a couple of weeks as of making this video, do prioritize a little bit more on the spirit bonding, getting the material first, because pentamelding is going to be the biggest thing, most expensive thing overall. But I will personally be looking at getting at least 1,000 of these. Even if I don't use them all, I would probably just sell a lot of them on day one as well, just to make some money. So if you just want to make money, then these are the things that people are going to be wanting to buy a lot of, particularly the lumber, the balls, the ore. Honestly, all of it. The aluminum, I don't think will probably necessarily go for the least amount. Everything else will probably go for the most, but we'll see how the prices go. I wouldn't be surprised if the flowers end up being the most early on, due to it probably being used in alchemy, maybe a bit in cooking. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that will probably get used quite a lot during the first week because of consumables and stuff like that. Is there anything else that I want to add? When the patch does hit, make sure you are capping out on your weekly for heliometry, which it will allow you to get the item level 720 gear. Savage drop should be dropping item level 730. The weapon should be 735. Other than that, just make sure you're stockpiling a lot and crafting a lot of the crafter food and the potions. They're going to be the equivalent of these gem drafts are going to be really expensive day one. If you are proccing, then you are going to want to be wanting to make it should be grade 2 of these when that comes out, and there will be better food buff as well. There'll be master recipes of the food buff as well, so you're going to have 7-10 food as well here. So yeah, lots and lots of things to do. If you are raiding on that Tuesday, wish you all the best and your team good luck. Crafters, good luck. It's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be a big 12-hour shift, and I'm sure it'll be some more 12-hour shifts in the next couple of days after the patch comes out as well. If you are only able to, you know, got a couple of hours before you're raiding that day, then the things that you're going to want to absolutely just prioritize on is quickly getting some crafted items yourself, and then just trying to make 1 or 2 of those pieces for your job, because yeah. And then I think you just would have to then settle on just using grade 1 alchemy potions and the current food buff if you are going in, which is fine for like the first couple, like, you know, your first week of prog. These food buffs and stuff and these potions are still going to be used a lot and will go for a fair amount, and people will be stockpiling these a few days before the patch goes out, so these prices will go up a lot. But that's kind of what you're looking at doing. It's a good amount of prep. We still have 2 weeks, so get on it. All the best. Bye bye.